That's what it says. Here we are. We got live up. Oh, we're going. Have we got any watchers? Let's wait for them to come trolling in, or it's just me and you, Si, talking here on our own.
Okay. If you call them, they will come.
Yeah, call them. Hello, is there anyone out there? Oh, according to that, we got 3 watchers on there. Hey guys, we're just waiting for a few more people to join and then we will get going. Let's just give people a little bit of time to say hi. If you're out there, give us a comment. We got producer Chris there in the background. He will punch up. Just say hi. Let us know who's there, because I can see there's a number of people joining us, but I can't see who it is. So yeah, come in, say hi. Let's see who we got out there. So you're joining us tonight. I'll do a proper intro in a minute. It's me, Mark Cropley and Si Cannon, and we are going to be talking about home education. We'll give you a proper intro when we're into the show for a bit. Let's get a few more people online. Let's see here. Evening all. Welcome. Okay. Right, I think we're about a minute into the live stream. So if you've just joined us, hello, welcome. This is Dad la Soulies Live, and it is our homeschooling special. I'm Mark Cropley, one of the regular Dad la Soulies, and a father to 4. 3 of them are home educated because the other one's only 5 months old, so not much home education going on there. So I've got some experience in this field of homeschooling or home education, although what we do is completely different to the education system. So we've got an expert in tonight. We've got Mr. Simon Callan. Hello, Simon.
Oh, good evening, Mark. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm very well. Very good. Got me a cup of coffee. Hello. We got Mr. Dan Flanagan joining us here tonight. He's punched up on screen. Every day is a school day. Yeah, I think you're right on that one. Actually, on that one, just before we go into your proper intro, because just before I forget about that, there is actually something in the homeschool calendar called Learn Nothing Day, which is very interesting because normally the boys fail about 10 minutes after they've woken up in the morning, because it's kind of impossible to learn nothing, isn't it, really?
It's very hard, actually. I'd be quite surprised if that actually happened in one day.
Exactly, even if you learnt someone's name. So, Simon, back to your intro then. Can you give us a bit about you and why are you our resident expert tonight?
Oh, blimey. So I'm Simon. I'm a teacher. I'm currently an infant school teacher at Lyndhurst Infant School in Worthing, an amazing school. I absolutely love it there. And I've been in education now for 20 years. I've worked as a deputy head, head of year, and an acting head and head of school. So there's not a lot I haven't done in education. It's gone by very quickly. Yeah, I've thoroughly enjoyed myself, and happy to pass on whatever I can. And hopefully the main thing for me is trying to ease the anxiety, because this is a very unusual and difficult time. And if I can offer any pearls that just ease the anxiety you might be feeling, then it's worth it.
So what kind of age groups is it predominantly you've been teaching throughout your career and now in particular?
Okay, so I trained as a Key Stage 2 teacher, so that's ages 7 to 11. The bulk of my career has been spent in the junior environment, so that's years 3 to 6. I have taught year 7. I did 4 years in year 7 back when we had middle schools, back in the good old days. And I'm now working in an infant school environment. So I have a mixed year 1-2 class at the moment. So the ages of the children are 5, 6, and 7. So the experience across the board, sadly, not very much in secondary school. I did work as a teaching assistant for a year before I did my teacher training at Stenning Grammar School. But that, to be fair, is the extent of my secondary school knowledge.
So really tonight, we're kind of going to be focusing on that sort of pre-GCSE level of education, because that's where our level of expertise is sitting at the moment. Certainly with my children, 11, 9 and 7, that's kind of where we are, and certainly for where you're educating as well. I'm sure there's a lot of people in that boat at the moment with their kids at home with them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think some of the advice that I've been given and some of the things I've heard can be transferred. I think secondary schools, from what I understand, are pretty well set up with their online learning modules. So I know that a lot of secondary age children have kind of jumped on board their virtual learning platforms, their online learning platforms, and so it's not been business as usual. It's been business very much unusual. But I think from the school's point of view, there's been a lot less for secondary schools to have to put into place, particularly given the way that we were as an infant school, because the bulk of our work is through play and through kinesthetic approaches, hands-on approaches to teaching and learning.
Okay, so we're going to do a bit more of a deep dive into some of this, and we've got some real good links to share, which you've shared with us tonight. I just want everyone that's out there watching now to get involved, send some questions in, field some off. If you're having troubles at home at the moment, you've got some particular questions for either me or particularly Simon while we've got him here, just send them in, and there'll be Chris will punch them up for us, and we can get into that. Just while we're waiting for some of those to come in, and before we go on to the next one, just a quick one. You're a little bit more interesting, and not that teachers aren't interesting at all, but you're a little bit more interesting than just a teacher. You do something else in your spare time as well, don't you?
Oh yeah. I DJ as well. I DJ with the Get It Together crew. A big shout out to Dave and Tris, my DJing buddies, partners in crime.
Good lads, love them.
Yeah, lovely fellas. Part of the Dad la Soulies crew. Been down from day one. Yeah, that's my other real passion. DJing, hip hop, soul, funk, all that good stuff. Vinyl DJ as well. I'm gonna do a live DJ. Yeah, I'm going to do a live mix on Friday night. Might as well get the plug in straight away. 8:30.
Go for it.
Through my own private feed, and we'll be sharing it through Get It Together page. And I might see if the good people at Dad la Soulies might share it. And
sure, we can.
Yeah, I've got the Friday night sorted for you as well.
Now, one of the things I've heard a lot of people say, actually, they've got the kids at home all day, and normally the kid would go off for, at least 6 hours at school, and they're struggling. They're saying, I've done all the work that I need to do in the first couple of hours. Now, I read a blog post from a primary school teacher the other day, and it said that actually in the education setting, when you take out all the breaks and all the stuff in between, that you might only be getting about or just under 2 hours of education in there. Hello, Sanjay, by the way.
Good evening, Sanjay. Thanks for joining us. I think that's very true. Sort of the old days of chalk and talk teaching are long behind us now, and the best type of learning is ground in meaningful experiences, meaningful contexts. Good learning experiences are fun as well, and very much we look to create experiences for children where they can explore, they can ask questions, they can experiment, they can test. All of those things are really, really important, and that the best type of learning happens then. So you're right. That there's certainly working with 5 and 6 year olds. You don't want to be standing in front of them talking to them for a long time, because they get bored and they get restless. The old rule of thumb was look at a child's chronological age, add 2, and that's effectively that's their maximum concentration period. I don't know if there's any scientific grounding in that, but when I did my training, we were always told, no more than about 10 minutes on the carpet area, 10-15 minutes at tops. So I think that's key. So nobody expects anybody at home to be lecturing and delivering what we would call didactic teaching to their children. It just doesn't work. It's not what we do in the trade, and certainly not something that we would recommend people do at home.
It's certainly about, and I know this with our kids, it's about getting them a subject they're interested in, finding a way to deliver that and letting them run with it, and then come back and ask you questions. You don't have to know all the answers. I think a lot of people are worried about, well, I don't know these subjects, and they're spending their evening swatting up. And actually, sometimes it's fine not to know these things and learn that together, isn't it? I mean, that's what we do. You have to be honest and go, I don't know the answer to that. Let's find out.
Yeah, absolutely. and I think this is the thing. The main thing I wanted to say was that what we're all doing is home learning. We're not homeschooling. That's something that you choose to do. You make a decision, you think about it, and you believe that that's the right option for you and your children. And that's very, very different from what we're doing. Nobody chose to be put in this position. This has been thrust upon us. It's been forced upon us. So we've had to adapt. And certainly that's what my wife and I are doing with our own children. My daughter's, she's 4, she's in reception. She spent a large part of the beginning of last week crying her eyes out. And it's because the situation's very different. The first thing we have to do is to manage anxiety. The nation is feeling worried and anxious at the moment, and so mindfulness is key. That's at the forefront of a school's curriculum now. Is managing children's social and emotional well-being. It's absolutely critical. So you're absolutely right what you say. It's about having fun. The best type of learning that I often see is where you give children a load of stuff and just say, right, here's some stuff, go and do something with it. And keep your junk modeling. You know, that's one of the things that I would say, keep hold of your junk modeling. I mean, we can't dump it at the tip at the moment anyway. So I'm sure we've got bulging recycling bins. Make use of it. Set it up. So, right, it's about building a vehicle now. Off you go. See what you can do. Sit back, have a cup of tea. You may not get a chance to have a cup of tea later on when you really want one, and watch them go. And particularly young children are really, really good at this as well. Nursery schools are amazing because this is how they structure their curricula, because you're dealing with very, very young children. So it's about exploration, and it's about taking away the barriers, and that's really refreshing, and it's really quite empowering. And there's nothing more rewarding than sitting back watching your children solve problems, and when they get stuck, you can intervene.
That's it. It's just about enjoying it. And I take on board what you said about, not being able to take stuff to the tip. I think there's a link that we're going to share later to the Scout Association. One of the things you can do on that is a junkyard catwalk, and you build robots and then display them. And actually, that's something you can do with friends across social as well. I just want to pick up this question that's been asked on here. So I had a pretty successful first week with the 6-year-old, but feel like we're failing the 3-year-old. He's really wanted to join in with what we're doing. Now, from my point of view, that's quite hard having kids of 3 different ages, because you have to either set them off on different subjects, or if you're trying to all do the same subject, do it at different levels. That's quite hard.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and I really empathise. It's really tricky. It's a tricky age, 3, very tricky age. The first thing I would say is you're definitely not failing your 3-year-old 100%. I'd agree. One of the things that we do in school is we set up our timetables with our most needy and our most vulnerable children at the forefront of our thinking, because the idea is, if you can get it right for those children, the strategies that you use, the techniques you use for your most vulnerable children will benefit all of the children in your class. So I guess what I would be thinking about is, let's see if we can put together some kind of structure. Let's involve the children in developing a loose timetable. I know this is a bit controversial, but a few people have said, well, it's impossible to develop a timetable when you've got mixed age groups of children at home. But give it a try, and involve the children in the decision making process. They love to be involved. They love to take ownership. And they feel very empowered, and they feel very special and very important.
Funny enough, we had a bit of a timetable last week, because I was at home. I was supposed to be on holiday, but unfortunately couldn't go to Cornwall, so we were at home, and we actually created a planner for the day. And it was as simple as, have breakfast, and then a bit of free time, and then tidy the house, and then lunch, and in the afternoon we had sort of learn something new. And then we had what I called hobby craft time. So you could either do crafting or hobbies. And then it was sort of get ready for dinner. There was a bit of TV time. So there was a structure there. But it wasn't like this, you're going to do piano lessons for half an hour at this time. And that worked really well. interestingly enough, on Sunday, we sort of relaxed it and it felt like such a long day.
Yeah,
And come Sunday evening, certainly our middle one, our 9-year-old was going, are we going to have a plan for tomorrow? And he was on it again this morning. So we did it. They loved it. They thrived on it.
Yeah. Even some of the roughest, toughest 12 and 13-year-olds that I've taught, they crave that type of structure, and children find it very reassuring, despite what they might say to you. Kids like structure and they like routine and they like a bit of order. And if you've got that in place, you can adapt it, you can tweak it. So going, and I think the other thing as well is to be honest with your children. You know, I'm honest as a teacher. You know, if I get things wrong, I'll tell them. I'm not afraid to make mistakes in front of my class. And I think it's about building that culture where they can see that it's okay to make mistakes and it's okay to get things wrong. And the great thing about children is that they're very, very forgiving. You know, I've gone in and taught and thought to myself, my God, you know, what an absolute joke you are. What an absolute disaster of a day that was. But the following day, the children come in, smiles on their faces, and you dust yourself off and you go again. And I think it's very, very early days at the moment. We're only sort of a week and a day into potentially a 12-week block here. So it is about finding your feet. Put the 3-year-old at the forefront of your thinking, because they are going to require more of your time than the 6-year-old. And say to the 6-year-old, you know what, this is time for us to spend with your little 3-year-old brother or sister, and they'll understand that. And I think if you're honest and say, actually, look, this is different. I'm not going to get it right all of the time, but if I get it wrong, I'll tell you, and we'll keep talking. You know,
and generally, I find with 2 children, sometimes one will feed off the other. You know, if you've got one that's saying, I don't want to do that, I don't want to do it, that's fine. Okay, we'll do it. You know, you start to set up that whatever you're going to do on your own, and generally they'll come along and they'll start to be interested. Well, what are you doing over there? And they'll be drawn to it. And you can get them involved even at different levels. If you're learning something about, say, the Romans, which is something we've done recently, you know, they can all get involved, because one of them could be learning about how centurions work. The other one can be doing a colouring in of a Roman.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
So you are involving the whole family in a subject then.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. I think it's with younger teachers, with new teachers, that they are required to evaluate each session that they teach. They are required to evaluate their week. And the phrase is being a reflective practitioner. And I think we can all become reflective practitioners. You know, think about what went well today. Why did it go well? What didn't go so well? And you'll learn. And remember, we're home learning. You know, we're not homeschooling.
No.
And learning takes place at the strangest of times. We like to do a bit of Joe Wicks in the morning, a little bit of yoga, or a little bit of wanna do street dance after Joe Wicks. Brilliant. And my daughter Flora, 4, she quite often tunes out whilst the rest of us are exercising. She'll dig out the toys, but she'll come and join us when she wants to. She'll kind of dip out when she doesn't want to. Let the children dictate the pace and the direction of the learning at times, and don't ever think that play is wasted time. It's the most important time, particularly independent play as well, where children are choosing to go off and play with a toy or use a resource or some materials. Let them go off and do it. It's precious time.
Indeed. Well, if you've only just joined us, this is Dad la Soulies live homeschool special. You're here with me, Mark Cropley, homeschooler to 3 + 1, Reggie, who's only 5 months, and also Simon Cannon, a primary school teacher. Now, if you want to get involved with the show, please do ask your questions and we'll punch them up on screen. You know, if you're feeling anxious about what you're doing. In fact, just as I say that, one comes up on screen. Oh, it's okay. It's a comment. Great talk, Morgan. Can't speak. Great talk, Mark and Simon Cannon, all useful stuff. Thank you, Matthew. That's brilliant. And, you know, we need a bit of encouragement here. Sometimes
Hello, Matthew. I used to work with Matthew. He's a great teacher.
Oh, okay. Oh, another
He's a brilliant guy. Yeah.
Okay.
I used to be Matthew's boss, believe it or not. But he's a
Okay.
great guy. Yeah.
Oh, well, thanks for joining us tonight there. And I say, mums and dads, get involved, ask those questions. Now, you spoke earlier on actually about the beginning of the classes and mindfulness. And we've got a link that you've shared with us, which we can punch up in the chat there, which was for childline calm zone. Do you want to just talk a bit about that and how you use it in class?
Yeah, absolutely. We've been undertaking some research at the school where I work on the effects of trauma on children and the effect that has on a child's brain and the development of a brain. And there's some really, really interesting but quite stark findings from this research that actually we have a system in this country where our curriculum is very much based on the chronological age of a child, whereas there is some thinking to suggest that it may be more effective to teach children at their neurological age, so teaching them at their developmental stage rather than their chronological age.
Okay.
And part of that work is building in opportunities for mindfulness, for deregulation, particularly when children become anxious. Now, we are dealing with a nation of anxious children at the moment. And building mindfulness sessions within your day is absolutely key. And I think taking some time out for we call it belly breathing at school. We also teach yoga at my school. I think I've put a link to Cosmic Kids Yoga later on. But just an opportunity to stop, to breathe, go outside in your garden if you've got one, lie on your back, look up at the sky, look at the stars, anything to deregulate, particularly if the children are behaving in ways that you didn't necessarily expect them to behave in. So like I said earlier, we've all got children in our classes who have suffered from trauma in some way or do experience high levels of anxiety. So those children need that as part of their daily diet. And actually, that's good practice for all children.
And I think adults too.
Without doubt.
We all need to get a bit of that in our lives, and I certainly use it where I can. Got some fans on here tonight, Simon.
Oh, they're all coming out. Hello, George. Thanks for that.
I mean, mindfulness is so important to I think if you can't focus sharply on any subject that you're working on, and I certainly find it sometimes when I've got a lot going on. I know it's hard actually during this period of lockdown, but just to go out and on walk, sometimes I just have to drop it all and leave it. But that is mindfulness, that is being focused and just seeing the trees. And I think, to do that with the children, make that as part of the day is definitely really important.
Oh, for sure.
So got a question come up from Megan. Thank you, Megan. Do you think we should relax the schooling for Easter holidays and keep some routine so it's not harder to get back in after the break?
That's a great question, Megan. My feeling would be to keep some degree of structure in place, because it's unlikely that we're going to be able to go out anywhere over the Easter holidays. It's unlikely that we're going to be able to visit our families. So yeah, I would with my own children, we would keep a degree of structure in place. And I think that the key is little and often, particularly with younger children. I mean, I teach 5, 6, and 7-year-olds. The reality is that I would get to listen to those children read at best once a week, but more likely once every fortnight. Now, you've got an opportunity to listen to your child read maybe 2 or 3 times a day. And you only need to do that for 10 minutes at a time. And that's the sort of thing that I would definitely keep going, keep the reading going, keep the sort of spelling going if you're doing some spellings with your kids if they're a bit older. I'll talk a little bit about the difference between conceptual learning and sort of foundational learning later on, because that's quite useful. and I would stay on top of the sort of the foundational learning. So yeah, great question. You can extend the periods of play, but I would certainly keep a degree of structure in place. It will make life a lot easier.
Yeah, indeed. I think keeping that structure, and this, we try and break things up a bit as home educators, but actually, at the moment, if you do sort of break for Easter, what are you going to do? You can go out for your walk a day. I think it's key to have that structure in place just for us to get through the days in general, let alone having to have our kids at home with us all the time as well. And it's the same for us. It's not normal for us to do what we do, even though we do home educate, but we still can't go along to our groups, to our normal stuff, because the kids do stuff outside here. They do horse riding, all these things. I think just keeping that general structure on there is very important. No worries, Megan. Thank you for the question. And
thanks, Megan.
So Samad, am late has just fell asleep on the kids' floor. This being at home is a malarkey. That I mean, you know what? It's knackering as well. It's constant attention, isn't it? And even we're finding that because again, just being at home with the kids and not being able to take them to the park and run about and let off some steam is bloody hard. And it does wear you out.
Yeah, it does. I mean, if going back to timetables, if you can schedule in some time for the children to play independently, then do it, and do it for yourself as well. I think it's absolutely key. You need that opportunity to deregulate yourself. You need that opportunity to just to let your brain expand a little bit, because it can be very intense. Again, it's really, really difficult with younger children. They are more demanding. They are going to knacker you. With any luck, they're sleeping during the day. If they're not, God Almighty, my heart goes out to you. But where you can snatch those breaks. I mean, we've got an opportunity as a society now to really connect with our children, really build relationships, really get into some good habits. So this is a learning opportunity for all of us, and we just have to talk. We just have to we have to do this often, and we have to share our ideas, and we'll get through it.
We will somehow or another. We will. You got Joe popped up there on screen. Someone else that must be a fan of yours as well, or a friend of yours.
Sam had an old mucker of mine as well. So it's nice.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. Thank you for all coming along there. So we've got another question from Claudine. How do you deal with school refusing attitude from your own child? Usually I take the mind off things and change tack to get them out, but we can't now. That's a tricky one. Sorry, let me just look at the question again. Usually I take the mind off things and change tack to take them out, but we can't now. So distraction is an absolute key behavioural management technique. And the advice that I got given when I did my I did some training, some autism training a little while ago, and whatever you need to do to distract your children, do it. That's the key. That's the key. Some of the things I've done in the classroom, I've pulled my jumper over my head, so I'm just walking around with a pair of glasses over my head. I've adopted silly voices. I've crawled on my hands and knees to stop a child from having a meltdown. Whatever you need to do, you need to do it. And remember, if a child reaches a point where they're highly anxious and they're highly stressed, it's going to take them a good 45 minutes to properly come down, because that child's body is fusing with adrenaline. And once that adrenaline starts coursing, they need an opportunity to deregulate, is what I was saying before. So get the music on, get a film on, get the iPad, whatever it might be, distract them. No judgment. No. I did this the other day with one of mine, actually. He was one of his brothers annoyed him again for the 15th time that day, and he came in screaming and shouting. So I just grabbed him, quite firmly, but not too hard around the waist or around the arms, and just started singing to him in a silly way. And after a while, he kind of just started to laugh and join in with me. It was a complete distraction technique, and
Yeah.
It's interesting to hear you say that. That's a technique that you kind of use in the classroom as well in a different way.
Yeah. Blimey, I can think of a girl, a 13-year-old girl, and it took me half a year to work out what I could do to stop her from exploding. She had many explosions in my classroom, and I had to adopt the campest, strangest, most inappropriate voice. And just to get her to calm down, and she started laughing. It's you've just got to do what you've got to do what you've got to do. As a teacher and as a former head, I guess what I'd be saying to my parents is, just don't worry. I think a lot of parents are going to be concerned that their children are going to fall behind. Well, they're not. You can't unlearn what you know. It just doesn't work like that. And they're going to be learning every day. Learning is quite often incidental. It happens when we least expect it. So just open the door to your garden if you can when you go out on your walk. Talk and communicate. Otherwise it becomes really difficult. Involve your children in everything that you do. I was talking to my head the other day, and we were talking about children not learning some of the skills that we developed when we were sort of growing up, sort of using knives and forks, using sharp knives, using scissors, using tools. Teach them how to use those sorts of things. We're often quite frightened to let children use proper tools. I probably shouldn't say this, but I let my son Stan use a Stanley knife at the weekend when we were doing some junk modelling. He was under close supervision. And he knew that this was a very serious piece of kit, and he knew, and he was very respectful of it. And actually, he couldn't control the Stanley knife in the way that he wanted to when we were cutting some cardboard. And he said to me, "Do you know what, Dad? I think I'd like you to do it." And I thought, there you go. That's simple thing like that. And he was utterly focused. And children, they never fail to surprise. And
no, indeed, I think sort of giving them that. It's sometimes hard as a parent to let the kid sort of handle tools like that. And I've actually, I was cutting some wood a few months ago outside, and with the circular saw, and one can I have a go on that? And your instant thing is no way. But actually, I thought, hang on, there is a safe way we can do this. There is a safe way I can set this up with the equipment and have it all clamped down properly, and just let them do one pass with the saw and a bit of 4x2. And I had a go, and it was fine. It was okay. But then the other two wanted to have a go too, so I had to set it up 3 times. And then they wanted to use the axe that we've got in the garden as well. But again, I showed them safely how to use the axe and stand there with their legs apart and to make sure. So yeah, I think don't be scared to give those things a go.
Yes, absolutely. Question from Sanjay?
Yeah, so Sanjay saying his wife's good with the home learning, but they're not in the clique of the mums group, so we don't know them all that well. His 6-year-old's missing their friends and the social side of things. The learning social play routine is broken. How do you cope and make them understand? Sometimes it's him playing the Barbie with her. I think, from my point of view, it is hard, even as a home educator at the moment, because like I said before, we can't go out and meet their friends. They still, just because they're home educated doesn't mean they have friends, and they don't, they go to, especially the older one now goes to drama, and he goes to scouts. So there's places where he goes and meets people. So that's really difficult right now. How are we dealing with it? I guess with the 3 brothers, at least they're only a couple of years apart each, so they're able to do that themselves, and we can join in as well. But it's certainly a difficult question, I think, Simon.
Yeah, it is a tricky one. Yeah, I feel for you, Sanjay. It sounds to me like your 6-year-old might be an only child, from what you were saying. I'm guessing there. Yeah, very happy for you to.
I think knowing Sanjay, he's got an older child as well, so I think there's quite a difference between the 2 ages.
Yeah. Well, the first thing I'd say, Sanjay, is there's nothing wrong with you playing Barbie with your daughter. In fact, I would positively encourage it. I love getting dressed up as princesses, and playing Barbies, doing all that sort of stuff with my own daughter. They absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. You'll be an absolute hero to your daughter, and I'm sure you already are. But you'll be even more of a hero if you do that sort of thing regularly. It's really tough. Yeah, that's the big thing that our children are going to miss out on. And I would go back to what I said earlier on about being honest and actually level with your daughter and say to her, do you know what, I understand that this is really difficult for you. Let's see if we can find a way of sorting it out. This is new for mummy and for me. I want to do the right thing, but I don't always know how to do the right thing. And that's a perfectly fine thing to say to your child, because you're talking to them at a level that they understand. You're being honest and you're being open, and you can find a solution together. I suspect that the other parents would welcome you and your wife into any type of WhatsApp group or social media forum. If you were to sort of reach out, I'm sure that they would. These are exceptional times at the moment. One of the things I would say is I know all of the Dad la Soulies chaps here well, and I know that this is a safe place for you, and this is a place of support and encouragement. And I think Mark was talking about some online play dates coming up as well. So just to give the Dad la Soulies a bit of a plug as well. Yeah, I'm sure that would help. But be honest, reach out. Don't be afraid to put on the Elsa costume, and you get there, and you know, just let us know how you're getting on, and we'll do whatever we can.
Indeed, yeah. I think, like you said, don't be afraid to get involved and do it, and just enjoy it the best you can. And I'm sure at the moment, you know, there's so many, like you said, WhatsApp groups being set up by people, and you know, communities. I know our local road community has all got together, and there's like a coordinator for the road, and we're making sure that, you know, the older people on the road have got their eggs and stuff that they need. It's, I think now's the time to reach out to other people in those schools and try and break into those cliques. I think definitely.
Yeah, and go back to the school as well. I hope my head doesn't mind me saying this, but I think the most important person in our school is our family liaison officer, and it's her job to work with our families during times of crisis, and make contact with your school. I mean, schools are open at the moment, albeit with a sort of skeleton staff, but there will be a senior member of staff in school, and make contact with them and say, actually, look, this is a challenge for us. You know, can you give me a bit of a steer here? Can you let me know who I can contact? And they may well get a member of the PTA to make contact with you. They may have a family liaison officer. They may just be able to point you in the direction that you need.
Indeed, yeah, it's definitely important to reach out, especially to the people in the know. And it's nice to hear actually the schools are still there to support people, you know, in their times of need, really. You are here listening to Dad la Soulies Live. Oh, quickly before I go into that, AJ's teacher emails weekly. Okay, lovely. So that's quite good. And actually, we've just seen. Sorry.
Puts the pressure on me now.
Yes, well, they've just started doing this. Actually, interestingly enough, both our drama group and the scout group this week have started to send out weekly challenges. So they're going to do a challenge to do in a drama setting, and the scouts as well are going to send something out to do at home. So it's actually quite nice to get that. And then all the kids, I guess, are doing a lot of the same things together. And they can then compare what they've done either online or through photos in the closed, safe Facebook groups. So anyway, you are listening to Dad la Soulies Live Homeschool Special with me, Mark Cropley, dad of 4, home educator with my lovely wife Sophie, who's just sat over there now, and with Simon Cannon, primary school teacher. Simon, we've taken some questions. If you've got any more, please get involved. But we've got about 20 minutes left of this show. I just wanted to go through some of the other links you shared with us. So the next one was White Rose Maths Home Learning. Do you want to give us a bit of SP on that one, please?
The White Rose are it's a maths hub. So the mathematics curriculum changed quite dramatically a few years ago. So a group of maths boffins were tasked with developing how they could developing materials and resources for schools to use to support teachers with their understanding and their teaching of mathematics in schools. So the White Rose group are fabulous, and I put a link to their home learning area, and what you'll find is there are activities to support all mathematics learning for all year groups from reception to year 8, I think. And not just that, there are supporting videos as well. So we talked about direct teaching earlier on, and so some of the ways we teach maths now are different from the ways that we learnt maths back in the day. So there are some really useful videos there for you to use. Again, you can use them with your children, or if you feel you need to sort of swat up on your fractions, percentages, whatever it might be, that's a good place. And some people have asked about sort of skills progression documents and the sort of curriculum, and you'll get a bit of a steer on what to teach, how long to spend on it, and how best to approach some of the maths that we cover. So it's good stuff there.
Brilliant. Okay, yeah, another one there for you, Simon.
Oh, they're all coming out to work, aren't they?
I was just about to go on to the next one, but let's just quickly look at this. What's your advice about working while in front of the kids? Both me and the wife work during the day and are doing half days with the kids, but inevitably there's a lot of us staring at phones and computer screens, something to try and avoid. Tried to avoid in the past. Yeah, definitely really hard. I mean, I'm quite lucky. Sophie's obviously at home all day with the kids anyway. So today I've managed to go off to the home office. Now we're all 4 children kind of now in this house, in this 3-bedroom house. We're kind of all crammed in. So I have to kind of share my bedroom stroke office with the baby as well. So actually today we put the baby in a travel cot in the boys' room. So obviously I didn't disturb him and he didn't disturb me. But you're right. I always try and stay away as much as I can from staring at phones in front of the children because I don't want to encourage that. Yeah. It's really hard when you're all in close proximity to each other to do that. And I think, you know, the only one of the ways you can do it is obviously to take it in shifts, like you said.
Yeah. I don't think there's much more you can do, Sam, to be perfectly honest with you. As we've said, these are exceptional times, and unfortunately we have to break our own rules.
Yeah, I did. I think you just have to do what you do to get on. I was looking this afternoon because it was getting so crazy in here, and I could hear people screaming while I was on the phone to customers. I was looking at summer houses that I can put in the garden, but at the moment, because work sort of dried up a bit, I can't afford it. Yeah. Maybe when the sun's out a bit more, I can just go and sit on the garage roof.
Yeah. That sounds lovely. In fact, my kids had me on the roof today because they'd whacked a cricket ball onto the roof. So my wife was having a piano lesson an online piano lesson in the room below me, whilst I was crawling all over the roof above her. You know, and these things happen, don't they?
These are unprecedented times, aren't they? Absolutely. You know, I think we've just got to learn new things and how to, you know, really live and work together. And I don't think we've ever had anything which has forced us to do this. And hopefully not again for quite some time.
Sure.
Just going back to...
Sorry, Mark. Yeah,
carry on.
Yes, going back to Samad's question, I did think, and it links to one of the other sites that I recommended. We use social stories in school. They're an amazing resource for children with ASD or social communication, ADHD, particularly with young children as well. what a social story is effectively a cartoon that explains a particular social situation. And the great thing about it is it's very, very visual. And one of the things you could do with your children is to create a social story. So a little cartoon where you explain in language in which they understand that there will be times when mummy and daddy will need to work because they no longer go to an office to work, they no longer go to a factory to work, or wherever it may be. So you create a social story and you pin it up and you keep it up there, you talk it through with the children, and it's something there that you can refer to. I've sent a link to a social story. It's the Flip Snack link, which has appeared, and that's all about explaining the coronavirus and why things are very different for us all, for young children and for children with social communication difficulties. And like I said before, we use this sort of stuff with our most vulnerable children, but it is really, really useful stuff for all children. So one of the things you could do, Sam, and I'll have a little, I'll do a bit of research and see if I can find somewhere where you can create your own social stories, but create a social story for why things are different at home, and knowing how effective they are. That may be a way just to ease a little bit of that guilt that I guess that you're both feeling. But again, you're not going to do them any damage. You know that's the key to all of this.
It's such a short period of time, isn't it? Hopefully that
in the grand scheme of things, yeah.
I think what you've got to do is make the most and enjoy this time with your children as much as you can. So yeah, great advice there, Simon, and thanks for sending that link. I'll have a look at that myself later.
Yeah, do.
There was a link actually in the order of things. I think it might have already been posted up on the comments, but I missed it earlier on. So Busy Things was one, and Twinkle?
Yes, it's a two. It's probably useful to talk about both of them at the same time. We teachers, we use Busy Things and Twinkle in school pretty much on a day-to-day basis. The Twinkle's great for paper resources, PowerPoint, games, activities, and everything is there. Absolutely everything. There are home learning packs. There are timetables you can use. I think they've even got social stories on there themselves. I'm pretty sure that they're doing a deal at the moment. You can
a lot of companies are, aren't
they? Yeah, which is great. Twinkle were one of the first. They are pretty much the market leader in terms of supporting teachers for resources. So Twinkle's absolutely great. We use the resources with our own children, so they're tried and tested, and they're colourful and bright and easy to use. And they're constantly updating their resource bank, so that's really, really good. Busy Things, it's brilliant. Thoroughly recommend it. If you're going to pay for anything, then pay for Busy Things. Busy Things is set up for nursery children, reception children, Key Stage 1 children, Key Stage 2 children. So, and every single subject, every single curriculum area is covered with Busy Things, and the activities, they're all online activities, are absolutely fantastic. They're really intuitive, really great fun. And the children in my class absolutely love it. You get a 7-day trial for free. There's a monthly subscription. You can cancel at any time, a bit like Netflix. Okay. Your first month is £1, and then from there it's £4.50 a month afterwards. But I would say that is, if you're going to spend a bit of money, and you don't need to spend money at this time on unnecessary programs, apps, whatever it might be, but that's the one. You've got 7 days, give it a try. Absolutely cane it, hammer it, and I'm pretty sure that your kids will like it as much as mine and the kids in my class do.
Brilliant. Okay, I'll certainly be having a look at giving that a go as well ourselves, especially trying to, structure things in while everyone's
Oh
stuck in
yeah.
the house at the moment. So they seem like really good and useful resources.
Mm.
So you're listening to Dad la Soulies Live Homeschool Special with me, Mark Cropley, dad of 4, home educator with my wife Sophie, and Cy Cannon, primary school teacher. We got 10 minutes left of the show. We got a couple more links to go in, but please get in contact, ask questions. We've got Simon here, who is a fountain of knowledge for all things schooly, and me, just some guy asking the questions.
Homeschooler extraordinaire.
Yeah. Going down to the last few links, actually, you shared. So one which is part of an association I hold dear to my heart is the Scout Association.
Oh yeah.
I'm a scout leader at Stellian Scouts myself, or I'm an assistant leader. And unfortunately, like many organisations, the Scouts have taken the difficult decision to suspend all of their activities, which is the right thing to do. We're supposed to be going on a camp at the end of May. That at the moment is still open, but I don't really think it's going to happen. So it's really hard for the kids that look forward to that, and it's part of their routine. So, oh God, I've forgotten the name. I think it's Jerry Kidd, who's the chief of the Scouts, along with Bear Grylls, who's our chief scout. Put out an email a couple of weeks ago and shared it with everyone else, 100 things to do at home with the kids. So it's a great resource there to go and find lots of things to do. And obviously you've indicated that yourself as well. Is it something you've used?
Definitely. Yeah. Used it last week. I was rostered into school last week for kids from key worker families and some of our most vulnerable families. And that pretty much formed the basis of my teaching last week.
Right. Okay.
Because the activities there again are tried and tested. You can filter by age group, and I think the activities go up to age 16 as well, and you can toggle as well. If you want to spend a bit of money on some resources, you can, but if you want to do things for free, you can. And those activities are absolutely fantastic. I love it because it's all about making use of the spaces around you, resources around you, and linked to some really nice big world ideas as well. So yeah, thoroughly recommended.
Yeah, I mean, I found some stuff on there that, one of the things we were going to try out with the kids that we've done with the Scouts and the Cubs before is to make giant catapults out of broomsticks and binding them together with elastic bands and a tuna tin. But actually, if you're indoors, that's kind of a hard thing to do. And there was one on there which was a lolly stick catapult launcher. So all you need is some elastic bands, lolly sticks, and a bottle top lid and some pom-poms to fire out. They're a great little thing for the kids to learn a bit of engineering about, a bit of tactile stuff in there. And they can have a bit of fun flicking all sorts of things at you when they're finished.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the stuff that we used to do as kids. I mean, and some of my happiest memories from my own childhood were sort of building contraptions and machines and dare I say it, weapons with my own dad, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it, and I think the Scouts website ties into that idea. I'm a big I'm a big believer in the Scouts. I mean, my own son Stan is a Cub, and his wonderful Cub leader. She ran a session via Zoom today for half an hour, so 7 to 7:30. There's a family quiz next week, and brilliant people, and I think it's really worth using the resources that they've got and getting our kids involved with Scouts.
Yeah.
Because it's a phenomenal resource.
Yeah, and it's been going for well over 100 years now. It must be doing something right as an organisation.
Yeah.
We just got a question pop up from our lovely Dan there. Any advice with only children? I went to the park for a kick around earlier. We could see some other kids playing. Normally we join them today. He looked really sad. Any tips? I mean, that's a really hard one, isn't it? I don't suppose really in this day and age. I mean, I was thinking, could you not just kick a ball across the field? But I mean, I suppose potentially, if you suddenly go and save the ball and someone else has touched it, there's a bit of cross contamination there.
Yeah, it's really tough, and I think it just goes back to being honest again and saying, do you know what, this is what we would normally do, but do you know what, today we can't. And acknowledge how that makes you feel. You say, do you know what, that makes me feel sad that we can't do that. How does it make you feel? Well, it makes me feel sad too, Daddy. Well, you know, what could we do now to make ourselves feel a bit happier? And I think it's about exploring your own emotional literacy and actually modeling to your children that it's okay to say that you feel sad. It's okay to say that you feel a bit upset or you're feeling a bit exasperated. Let's find a solution together. Let's do something together to put it right. But yeah, that's really tough, because that's not nice.
No, I feel really sorry for people,
so yeah,
in particular with only children and people that don't have outside spaces they can go to, because they're the people that are going to find it tougher. At least I suppose my kids together, they can play together. They're part of a family. They can go outside. We've got an outside area they can play. But if your only trip out is out to play football, I think you're right. You've just got to be honest about this. This is very strange, unprecedented times, and we all just need to do our best where we can.
Absolutely, and saying to your kids, I don't know, I just don't know. I mean,
we don't have all the answers.
I think I said no, absolutely, and we put too much pressure on ourselves if we feel that we have to provide all of the answers. It's too hard, and you do just. Children are sponges, and children will copy, and if they see you modeling humility and honesty and emotional literacy, then that's what you'll get back from them.
Yeah.
But if they see you modeling exasperation, anger, and bottling up those feelings, then that may well be what you get back from them as well.
Indeed, yeah. It's they can very mirror your emotions, can't they? So I think that being an open about things, they do understand. Just had a comment up there from Samantha. Thank you for getting in contact with us, and I'm glad you've enjoyed the show. We're kind of running up to the last few minutes here, so I just want to quickly touch on the last link you shared with us, which is Cosmic Yoga.
Oh, brilliant! Yeah, absolutely brilliant. I didn't know much about this one myself until my wife Michelle recommended it to me. And this morning at 9:30, after Joe Wicks, we did a bit of cosmic kids yoga, and yoga increasingly is being taught in more and more schools, and I think it's brilliant.
That's amazing.
And yeah, fabulous. And it goes back to what we were talking about before, this sort of mindfulness. Deregulation, calmness, but also building strength, form, and posture, and all that good stuff as well. And Cosmic Kids, the yoga sessions are framed around stories, so they're quite fast paced, but they're great fun. The session we did this morning was a retelling of The Force Awakens, the Star Wars film, using yoga poses, which was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. So yeah, I thoroughly recommend that as well.
I'm just imagining a Street Fighter one too, Hadouken and all this kind of thing.
yeah, perfect. Actually, there was a yoga. What was his name? I can't. There was a yoga practitioner, wasn't there, who was a Street Fighter character? I'm sure someone.
Oh right, okay. Actually, this is quite news to me. I've sort of looked at yoga sessions, and actually, I do like doing a bit of it myself. I'm training to do some pretty heavy stuff in September. Some of the SAS challenges, and do you know what? I'm training my body quite hard at the moment, and there's nothing better than sort of loosening up with a bit of yoga, especially when it starts to get tight.
Nice.
So if I could do a bit of Street Fighter yoga on top of that, even better, I reckon.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah. Is that? Oh, Kyan. Oh, hello, Kyan. How you doing? Thanks for the message.
Brilliant. So yeah, thanks, Simon. I mean, there's so much useful stuff in there, and I think if anyone's watching this back on a rerun, if you've got any questions that you really desperately want answers, please message us through Dad la Soulies and through the Facebook page, and we'll get those answered either by ourselves or we can get Simon involved and answering those questions too. So. Please do ask those questions even after we finish this live broadcast. I've seen we've been joined by quite a few people tonight, so thank you very much for getting involved. Thanks for all the questions.
Yeah, thank you.
There's another one here for you as well, Simon. So
yeah, Jamie and Leo, you should be in bed. Get to bed, Jamie and Leo.
You're going into teacher mode. Get to bed.
Yeah, that's it now. Yeah, it's 8 o'clock now. My alter ego appears.
Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. Really enjoyed this. Really enjoyed listening to you. Thank you there, Mark Davis. It's no problem at all. I think this is a subject that we covered, and we want to kind of do one of these every week as well. So if people have got anything else they want us to cover, we can get some people that are specialists in their field along. And just get involved. Maybe we could do one on fitness. Some others. Any suggestions you guys got? Kind of get involved. Let us know. And thanks for being part of it. And Simon, thank you so much. It's been a wonderful session. I've really enjoyed it. Thank you, Sanjay. See some reassuring advice there. So
yeah,
brilliant. Thank you, everyone, and thank you, Mark Collins there. Thank you, Chris, producer Chris, being there in the background. Chris. Punching all these up. It would not have happened as smoothly without you. Thank you to the rest of the Dad la Soulies team, Matt, Ian, and Dan, and thank you to all the rest of our volunteers as well. They're in the background doing a wonderful job. So that's us. That's Dad la Soulies Live Homeschool Special. Thank you for being part of it, and we'll see you again soon.
Nice one. Thank you.
Hopefully